Somewhere deep in northern Canada, a road ended. Not the kind of road that fades into gravel. The kind that disappears completely under 3 feet of frozen mud, collapsed trees, and terrain that no conventional vehicle was ever meant to survive. The rescue team had been waiting for days. Their trucks could not reach them. Their helicopters had no visibility. And then, out of that tree line, something came. Something that was not a truck, was not a helicopter, was not anything most people had ever seen moving through terrain like that. It was a motorhome, a 10 by 10 Caterpillar motorhome, and it did not slow down once. That is not a story someone made up. That is the kind of scenario this machine was designed for. And when you understand what this vehicle actually is, what it is actually capable of, and why no other motorhome on Earth comes close to doing what this one does, you will understand why calling it extreme is not marketing language. It is a technical description. Most people have a picture in their head when they hear the words motorhome. They picture something white and boxy parked at a campsite next to a folding table. They picture a family trip, a highway cruise, maybe a mountain pass on a paved road with a good shoulder. That picture is completely wrong for what we are talking about today. And that disconnect matters, because the gap between what people assume this vehicle is and what it actually is exactly why this build is historic. Think about what the word expedition actually means in engineering terms. It does not mean going somewhere scenic. It means operating in conditions where standard infrastructure does not exist. No roads, no power grid, no fuel stations, no cell coverage, no help if something goes wrong. True expedition capability means the vehicle is the infrastructure. Everything the crew needs to survive, operate, and complete a mission in complete isolation has to live inside that vehicle. And that machine has to function without failure across temperature extremes, elevation changes, water crossings, rock fields, and terrain that would tear apart anything built for regular use. That is an entirely different engineering challenge than building something comfortable. The Caterpillar name matters here. Caterpillar is not a motorhome manufacturer. Caterpillar builds the machines that build the world. The engines that power mining operations, the drivetrain systems used in heavy construction across every continent, the tracked and wheeled systems trusted in the most physically demanding industrial environments on Earth. When Caterpillar engineering principles get applied to a motorhome platform, the result is not an upgraded camper. The result is a different category of machine entirely. The 10 by 10 designation is not a style choice. It refers to the drive configuration. 10 wheels. 10 of those wheels powered simultaneously. Every single contact point with the ground is receiving torque at the same time. On a normal all-wheel drive vehicle, power transfer is managed reactively, meaning the system responds to wheel slip after it happens. On a 10 by 10 system, power is distributed proactively across the entire contact footprint. The vehicle does not lose traction and then correct. It never loses traction in the first place. That difference sounds small when you say it out loud. In the field, that difference is the reason this vehicle moves through terrain that stops everything else. Now layer the engine on top of that. 1,000 horsepower. But before that number creates the wrong impression, understand what that horsepower is for. On a performance car, 1,000 horsepower is about speed. On this machine, 1,000 horsepower is about torque delivery at low RPM. It is about moving an enormous amount of weight through conditions that create massive rolling resistance. Mud, deep snow, loose rock, steep inclines with soft surfaces. These environments fight the vehicle at every inch of forward movement. High torque at low engine speeds is what defeats that. Resistance without overheating the drivetrain or burning the components under load. Speed is irrelevant. The ability to keep moving without mechanical failure is everything. But here is where the engineering becomes something most people never consider. Building a vehicle with that kind of mechanical capability is one challenge. Making that vehicle livable for extended periods in extreme environments is a completely separate engineering problem. And solving both at the same time, in the same structure, at a weight that the drivetrain can still manage, is where most extreme build projects fall apart. The 2026 build solves that problem in ways that previous generations of expedition vehicles could not. Thermal management inside the living quarters is rated for sustained operation at -40 degrees without external power. The water system is fully sealed and heated throughout, meaning freeze protection is not a concern down to temperatures that would strand any conventional camper. The electrical architecture is designed around redundancy, not just capacity. There is no single point of failure in the power system. If one generation source fails, the vehicle does not go dark. It reroutes automatically and the crew does not notice. The interior is not designed for comfort. In the way a hotel room is designed for comfort, it is designed for functional endurance. Every surface, every piece of storage, every system interface was engineered around the assumption that the people inside will be operating under physical stress for extended periods. 12-hour shifts in brutal cold, returning to a vehicle that needs to be both a shelter and a base of operations simultaneously. The layout reflects that. Workstations that can function as mission planning areas, rest spaces that isolate noise from operational areas, climate control that responds to body heat and exterior conditions rather than requiring manual management. These are not luxury features. They are performance features. Here is the part that most coverage of this vehicle misses entirely. The cost of operating this machine is not what you think it is. The assumption most people make is that a vehicle this capable must be prohibitively expensive to run. But consider the alternative calculation. If you are operating in environments where infrastructure does not exist, what does it cost to build temporary infrastructure for a conventional fleet? What does it cost to airlift supplies to a team whose vehicles broke down at kilometer 60 of a route this machine covers without drama? What does it cost when a mission fails because the transportation layer could not perform? The Caterpillar Expedition Motorhome does not just change what terrain is accessible. It changes what is economically viable to attempt. One vehicle, one crew, complete operational independence for weeks at a time. The math looks completely different when you frame it that way. And that framing points to something larger. We are entering a period where the limits of accessible terrain are being pushed by a very specific pressure. Climate infrastructure projects. Resource access in regions that were previously unreachable due to seasonal conditions that are now shifting. Scientific research requiring sustained presence in extreme environments that were not logistically feasible a decade ago. Emergency response capability in regions where disasters are increasingly occurring beyond the reach of conventional vehicles. The demand for what this machine can do is not shrinking, it is accelerating. The 2026 build is not the endpoint of this engineering direction. It is the first version that proves the full concept works. The question that this vehicle raises is not whether something this extreme is necessary. The question is, what becomes possible once you accept that the machine can go anywhere and sustain itself indefinitely? Because the answer to that question changes the scope of what human teams can actually attempt. And the teams already using platforms at this level are only beginning to demonstrate what that scope looks like. If you want to understand where expedition engineering goes next, and what the machines being developed right now are being built to do, stay on this channel, because this is only the beginning of that story.